For anybody who hasn't listened to the full track of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, look, it is phenomenal. I've been bumping Kendrick for like 5 days now, straight. I heard the full song for the first time in Mr. Hoovetube's car. Right before we got T-boned in Canton. It was like 20 minutes before that, with the Fantasy Football Expo. And I just couldn't. I never really listened to Kendrick Lamar. Like, honestly, and I'm an old school hip hop guy, right? Like, I grew up on like Wu-Tang, Souls of Mischief, Deltron, like all of that stuff, Public Enemy, Run DMC. So this new era of like trap hip hop, I haven't really cared for. Like, I like Wheezy. I've always been a big Kanye fan when he's not being weird. Well, Kendrick Lamar brings that vibe back, man. I love it.
He's interesting because, I mean, Good Kid, Mad City, putting him on the map or whatever, that was my senior year of high school. But the only song like I ever heard from that was Swimming Pools. And like, if you hear that song out of context, you're just like, oh, he kind of just sounds like your everyday party rapper, like whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. So like, I was the perfect age for, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. But then like To Pimp a Butterfly comes out, somebody's like, hey, like, dude, like seriously listen to this. Like, I know the kind of shit you like, listen to this. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I got on board, but like, dude, like, we have a lot of that in common in terms of the hip hop stuff, but he really just does bridge that gap so well. Cause like, dude is so lyrical for days.
Seriously.
It's incredible.
Well, the thing with Not Like Us is, I mean, it's a freestyle and he just
eviscerates Drake, dude.
He eviscerates Drake. Like, I was indifferent to Drake until I listened to that song all the way through. And it's like, oh man, F Drake. Screw this. Mission accomplished. Good job, Kendrick. And he's the halftime show for the Super Bowl, which I'm pretty stoked about.
I agree, which is the perfect tie-in because this show, like the Super Bowl, is based around football. That's how you welcome people to the Nate and
Yes, that is it.
Fantasy YouTube channel.
So, like, I don't know, 20 minutes into the show, welcome to the Nate and Herms show. The cold open office style or something. I don't know what the hell it was. But here we are. It is week 2 of NFL football, folks. It is September 11th, 2024. On the East Coast, it is actually September 12th, 2024. Week 1 was an interesting one, man. We saw some really weird stuff happen. Like the Bengals blew. Losing to a Patriots team that was supposed to be terrible. Buffalo struggled a little bit more than I thought they were going to on Sunday. I thought that was
definitely concerning.
The Broncos. I thought Bo Nix was going to be better.
The Broncos.
I thought Bo Nix was going to be better.
Considering the nothing he has to work with, I thought it was okay.
Sure.
Like if we're grading on a really steep curve, then like he did okay. But like, dude, they might be the worst team in the NFL. Them or the Carolina Panthers are just directionless.
Well, now it's the worst team's Carolina. All right, it's Carolina.
It's awful.
Denver might be close, and I suppose, and you and I have had endless conversations about Bo Nix. We've had endless conversations about Bo Nix with many people, including every night at the Mobile House for the Senior Bowl when we were down there covering the Senior Bowl and watching some of these guys play in person. Nix didn't learn anything, man. He looked like the exact same player we saw at the Senior Bowl. Happy feet, making bad decisions, and he can't get down the field with his reads. I mean, seriously, there were probably 5 or 6 of those short passes where he was dumping to either Vale or McLaughlin, where Cortland Sutton was open and Josh Reynolds was open 10 to 15 yards down the field in direct sight, but he couldn't get past the defense. So, I mean, maybe Peyton can fix that. But I don't know. Possible. What I worry about is like, if you don't just have that vision, how do you teach that vision?
I mean,
how do you teach that sight?
There's that. And then the other complicated part about that, because like everything you said, like totally correct, definitely agree. But then to kind of like pile on top a little bit, because you like the names that you mentioned of the people that he was throwing to, no offense to these guys, football players, obviously, but like Devon Vale, Josh Reynolds, like that is an indictment on a lot that's going on. Because like, let me ask you this: where's Marvin Mims? What was the point of drafting Marvin Mims, trading up in the second round to go get him. Like Sean Payton, like this was supposed to be your dude. Like you, the first pick you make in your tenure as the Broncos head coach is like this playmaker right here. That's our guy, dude.
I wonder what he had one target, 17% of snaps on Sunday. I don't know, man.
Ooh.
It seems like a Paxton Lynch type pick. I don't know. I want to hop in the chat here real quick, Herms. We've got a couple of questions, which is the main reason we're here. Guys, if you are watching and you've got questions, you're on Twitter, you're on Twitch, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, drop those questions in the chat, guys. We will get to everything that we can here tonight. I'm not on any sort of like pitch count, so I can go until 3 a.m. if we have people who need help. First question here is from Quinn Lenardi. Quinn, thank you for tuning in. Amari Cooper or T. Higgins rest of season? Okay, so I'll start with this one because it depends on a few things here. Yeah. Mostly what it depends on is who is going to be the quarterback in Cleveland. Because if it's Deshaun Watson rest of season, I want nothing to do with Amari Cooper. He is a waste of a roster spot in fantasy to me. So it's going to be T. Higgins. Now, if they move on from Deshaun Watson, and given the recent new allegations that have come out, it would lend yourself to believe that he might get himself on the commissioner's exempt list. Then we get Jameis Winston. Then I might lean Cooper. But otherwise, it's going to be T. Higgins. For me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Browns quarterback situation is fair to be extremely worried about for all the reasons that you mentioned. I think, I don't remember the exact stat, so forgive me for that, audience, but it was said over and over again on the Fox broadcast. It was like 40-something or even like a little over 50% of like their plays in that game went for 0 or fewer yards or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they repeated that fact over and over again. And when you just like watch the game, you're like, nothing's moving. Nothing is moving at all. At least with T. Higgins, he's in an offense where the ball is capable of moving. Now he's dealing with hamstring issues again, which is something that has dramatically affected his career to date. But, you know, as long as that ends up being, you know, mild, I think I'd rather deal with a guy with a history of hamstring injuries than a guy catching passes from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, too. If they get rid of Watson, we'll talk about Cooper, depending on – because if they go with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I'd want nothing to do with Amari Cooper as well. It has to be Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, sure. Terrible NFL quarterback, fantastically fun fantasy quarterback. Now we've got Ventro in the chat here. He wants to know, would you trade CMC, George Pickens, and Zach Moss for Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard, and Malik Neighbors? Herms, take it away.
That one's tough. I mean, I don't know a lot of information about CMC's injury. The only thing I really do know is that it cropped up at the end of last year and like into the playoffs and stuff. So if it's the same calf/Achilles, then that's a little bit weird and kind of makes me feel a little bit funky about it. So like if that was the motivation behind it, just like you want to ship off that asset you're a little bit, you know, nervous about, bringing in Jonathan Taylor and Pollard and then whatever Malik Neighbors becomes is not a bad idea. But we're still talking about trading away Christian McCaffrey. So like I don't have a perfect answer, but I think it's really more about like what your motivation behind the deal is, because if you're genuinely nervous, then like go for it, I guess. But personally, just with how dominant Christian McCaffrey can be when he's healthy, I don't want to let go of that until I have a little bit more information.
Yeah. So here's what I've heard. I've heard that it is an Achilles strain. So initially it was a calf strain. Now they've said it's an Achilles strain, which sounds scary, right? Because we know what an Achilles tear does. The strain is a partial tear, but they're not as concerned about it. It's looking like it could be 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. He could play this week, but they don't want to necessarily push it. So here's what I'd say on this, Ventro. If you have a team that you think can get through the next 3 to 4 weeks without CMC and still be in a position where you can get to the playoffs, do not make a deal. Do not send off CMC, and here's why. Jonathan Taylor's upside is completely capped in this offense with Anthony Richardson. What was he was in the RB teens last week, and that was a pretty good finish for him, and that's going to be about his ceiling this season. Tony Pollard had a decent week. But again, his ceiling, those two combined, their ceiling isn't close to what CMC can put up for you every week. And Malik Neighbors' quarterback is Daniel Jones. So I would hold on to CMC. If you wanted to deal Pickens and Moss for Pollard and Malik Neighbors, I'd be okay with that deal, but keep CMC out of it, especially if you have a team that can contend, because CMC come playoff time is going to be money for you because he has to be money for San Francisco at that point in the season. That's what they're saving him for. So think ahead. Chestnut checkers, my friend. Now, Nathan Tilbury in the chat. Great name, by the way, Nathan. I love it. Someone dropped both Kincaid and I'm assuming Jaden Daniels, probably not Chase Daniels. PPR redraft. I already have Murray and McBride. Do I pick up both or one up? If both, would have to drop either Chase Brown or Scary Terry. Thoughts? Go ahead and drop Chase Brown. Be good with that. Scary Terry, I'd be more prone to hold on to try to stack with Jaden Daniels. I guess what I would need to know, Nathan, or what we would need to know, is this a super flex league, 2 QB league? Is it a 1 QB league? Like, what are the settings here? Get back to us on that here, and we can give you a full answer. Herms, Jackson Taylor in the chat. Yo, how y'all doing? What's up, buddy? 10-man PPR. Should I send away Kenneth Walker and Zay Flowers for Garrett Wilson? I'm thinking yes, as I have A-Chain, Henry, Jordan Mason, Javonte Williams, and Jalen right behind. Yeah, I'd make this deal.
Yeah, the Jets' offense was a little bit weird. They looked a little bit stagnant, but they were able to push the ball for slightly longer drives. Like it's looking like there might be improvement afoot. And at that point, yeah, Garrett Wilson's just really good, dude. Like I have concerns about Lamar and his passing ADOT and how far some of these passes are going to go for Baltimore. And then Walker, I mean, he might be hurt, so we'll see about that. But I don't want to speak too far out of my ass because we don't know the full extent of his injury yet. But just in general, you have a lot of running backs, and I think Garrett Wilson's an excellent receiver. So,
yeah. Well, what we know about Aaron Rodgers is when he has an elite receiver, he hyper targets them. Look at, Devontae Adams. That dude saw 120, 130, 150 targets a season or more. And I think that's the territory that Garrett Wilson's going to get into in this offense. So I would make this deal because, like you said, Zay Flowers' ceiling is really not great in Baltimore. I love the talent, but it's not going to be this season.
I think real life ceiling is one thing. Fantasy ceiling, because of how much he got targeted and just how many passes he caught, he still racked up a decent amount of PPR value.
Yeah.
So in that way, he could just volume his way to being really good. So I think that is still something that's on the table, but it's going to be. When you say
really good, here's what I want to know. When you say really good, though, what is that? What's his ceiling in PPR? Wide receiver? Are you saying wide receiver 8? Or do you think he can be a wide receiver 18?
I think he could be a mid wide receiver too, 15, 16, maybe 14. I don't know. Something like that, dude. It's, like I said, volume your way to, you can just do that in fantasy, with targets and carries, dude. That's the lifeblood of this whole thing, baby.
Yeah. Volume is king, right?
Exactly, dude.
The great Andrew Cooper says, when you're looking for a breakout tight end, look for that guy who can be the wide receiver 2 in volume on their team. So Quinn says, thanks, fellas. Anytime, dude. We're here to help. This is our passion, our love, and our career. So it's literally what we do for a living, guys. Just let us know. We're here to help. Mr. Jamie Parag, Optimus Primetime. What's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. Fun thing I learned about our pal Jamie here this week. He shares a birthday with my son, Jackson.
That's incredible. Wow.
I know, right? Really awesome.
Happy
So it makes it really
Jamie.
easy for me to remember Jamie's birthday here. Now, Nathan came back here. It's a 1 QB and wouldn't have to drop Terry to get both, just Chase Brown.
Wow.
Was already going to, do it.
We'll talk more about the reasons to drop Chase Brown later. Fun teaser. But we support this decision.
Absolutely do it. Yeah, that's a good trade, Nathan. All right, now, Quinn has another question for us. Herms, team right now is Burrow, Saquon, Najee, A.J. Brown, Ayuk, Pittman, Bowers, and Hollywood, Amari, Judy, and Charbonnet on the bench. Jonathan Brooks on IR. What do you think about the team going forward? My only real concern here, Herms, is Burrrrow. And it's only a scant concern because of what we saw on Sunday. I mean, it's 21 to 29 for under 200 yards, which is not what you want to see out of a guy that you were drafting as a QB1, but he turns it around, right?
Probably, for sure. You know, and I think that, one of the things that I think a lot of people really need to keep in mind is that, this week saw like record lows in terms of just passing league wide. And I don't remember the exact, if it pulls up quickly enough, this computer is very slow. Yes. Okay. So week 1 had the lowest passing yard output since 2010. That is kind of how, So like, that's the context that we're operating within. So when it comes to these quarterbacks, like definitely have some concern, but I'm willing to give a pass to just about everybody. Not everybody, but just about everybody.
Most
including a guy like Joe Burrow. Yeah.
So well, like, especially because New England's defense is good.
They always have been. And Gerard Mayo, coming from a defensive background, being the former captain of that defense himself, like he knows what's up.
Yep, exactly. I'm not ready to press panic on Cincinnati.
Yeah. I have another concern on this roster, but it does kind of tie into another topic we'll get to later. But just to tease it a little bit, Jonathan Brooks, I'm a little worried that we all kind of wasted a draft pick on that. But that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So Jackson says, appreciate the insight, boys. Easiest like and sub ever. I'm going to build more trades with league mates in return. Please do, guys. And on that note, I just want to point out some of the other awesome stuff we have going on this channel. Tomorrow night, myself and Casey Kasem will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern for the flagship Optimus Fantasy Football Show. If you guys didn't tune in last week, it was a blast. Looking forward to getting to do this show every week with Casey all season long. 2 very knowledgeable fantasy football people. And then, I'm talking about Casey whenever guests we bring on. And then I'm just like, I'm the circus. I'm the ringleader here or something. I don't know, man, but it's going to be a great show. Looking very much forward to it. And we have an article coming from Casey tomorrow, published on the site. And from Bo, the king of Spice McBrayer, we're going to get an article out from him tomorrow. And then come Friday, we have insights for the weekend on bets and everything fantasy from HoofTube. And Kevin Tompkins, a week ahead of the waiver wire, guys. He's going to give you guys to snag over the weekend for free that a lot of people are going to be paying up for ahead of week 3. So get on that one. And then Friday night, Hoove and myself on the DFS or the betting and mailbag. The betting and mailbag show. Get those questions into team@optimusfantasy.com. Find us at Optimus Fantasy on Twitter. Drop them in a DM. Drop them in a comment on a post. We don't care. We'll find them. We'll put them on the show. We'll read them live at 6 p.m. Eastern, plus our favorite bets for the weekend slate. And then DFS Live with myself and Mr. Boston, Mike Reedy. We're going to be there Friday morning with our DFS picks for the main slate. Guys that we love at all price ranges at every position. We kind of nailed some shit last week, Herm. So I'm looking forward to talk a little bit more DFS with Mr. Reedy, formerly of the Undroppables, currently writing some DFS stuff for Rotoballer. Guy knows his stuff. So I'm really stoked to get to do a couple shows with him a week. Now we've got Jamie here saying hit the like and subscribe buttons only if you want to win. We agree, guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this video. It helps us continue to do all this fun stuff for you. Be on camera more often. Answer your questions. It's just a blast. It's football season.
Help me afford a more interesting background than curtains. I mean, like, I think that could be a thing we could do if you like and subscribe. That could become more interesting behind me. So just throwing that out there.
I love it. I know. I could get a freaking haircut. Like and subscribe and help Nate get a haircut.
Hashtag get Nate a haircut. Get that going, internet. You know what to do. Do the thing.
I mean, don't tell everybody that I'm almost bald and only need like half of my hair cut.
Well, so am I. It's not going well, you know. I mean, we're trying.
It is what it is. I have a big bald spot on the back you can't even see. You want to know how I felt?
I'm starting
You know how I found out about that bald spot, Herms?
Hmm.
Family photos.
Oh lordy! Oh, the worst. That's got to be
we did a side picture where I was arm around Jen like this, and we're looking at each other, and we get the proofs back like a month later, and I'm like, hold on a second, what the is that on the back of my head? Jen's like, you didn't know? It's like, I had no idea.
Shit, dude.
I have the monk, but here's the worst part: is it's off center.
Oh,
it's like off to the. It can't. I would take it right here. That's fine.
Yeah, that's a lot more manageable at that point. Yeah, you know what though? You're a handsome fella. You can rock it. I believe in you.
I don't know that I'm that handsome, but I mean, whatever.
I'll
take it. I'll take it. All right, so I want to talk about something. Now the chat has slowed down for a minute, and hopefully just for a minute, guys. Get those questions in. We are here to answer.
Hit us up with anything.
Twitter chat's working. If you're watching us on Twitter, you're watching us on X, make us full screen, hop in that chat, ask some questions, guys. That's what we're here for. But until you do that, we're going to talk about Bryce Young. Because, guys, look, I had questions. I had questions about Bryce Young before he even set foot on an NFL field, right? I think we all kind of did. But he's supposed to be this like cerebral thinker quarterback. Was that all? I mean, can we throw the Wonderlic and the whatever, the S2, P1, P57? Can we just throw those tests out? Because I don't think they meet. CJ Stroud was one of the lowest scores they've ever had, supposedly. And the dude is a top 5 NFL quarterback right now.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, one of the higher scores they've had. He's my QB 32 in fantasy this week. He is my lowest rated starter. And if there was a chance that we knew we were going to see Jameis Winston for half of football next weekend, I would have Bryce Young at QB 33.
Yeah, like I hear what you're saying, and I think that, there's definitely flaws in all sorts of those, kind of like intellectual measure tests or whatever. But I don't really think it correlates very much with like just how bad your team situation is. And I think that's more Bryce Young's problem than anything else. Because like, yes, he does have that reputation of like, his ability to like read things and do all that. But what he did do a lot at Alabama was kind of scoot out in boots and kind of like use his improvisational skills a little bit. And when you have an offensive line that can't block anything, it's a disaster. And that's really where my concern comes in. Like, my big thing that I was hoping for from them this year was like, maybe they can progress towards something near league average with their offense, because they invested over $100 million into getting guys, I think like guard Robert Hunt and, a few others in the building to go with Ike Ekwonu at left tackle. This is something that you've been building for a while. Like, you threw a lot of capital at it, both, financially, free agency, and then also draft capital. And the first results were awful. Nothing worked. It was the most like, it might be the shittiest offense I've seen in the past like 5 years. And I'm a Steelers fan. I watch Matt Canada. Okay.
And now you're stuck with Arthur Smith. You guys won without scoring a touchdown. Boswell, kicker won.
I have all sorts of things I could say about that, but I will stop myself.
Here's where I'm at. And I want to pull up a couple of comments here. We've got Nate Total Smoke Show from Brad.
Hey. See,
I appreciate it, but but Robbie Rumboys, the homie, speaking of Colorado Springs earlier, look at these handsome gentlemen. Well, we appreciate that, sir. And my homeboy Tip Major, what is up, buddy?
Tip, what up, dude?
This is awesome. I love it. Thanks for tuning in. Robbie says Bryce Young is a grown 12-year-old. I mean, he does look like it. I think Jackson's about his same height. But Brad makes a good point here.
Bryce got all of his confidence
sapped. Yes, it was. Believe it or not, guys, we actually do have a sheet full of stuff that we want to talk about. But I think that we have been doing late night conversations for so long that we just kind of go. It doesn't 5 years of this, and now you guys get to watch it live. Hey, yeah. I mean, I think for real though, like, look, Frank Reich I'm 42. So I grew up on Frank Reich being Jim Kelly's backup in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And what came with that was there was
Legend
a season where
Ireland, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Jim Kelly got hurt and Frank Reich won like 7 or 8 straight games.
Yeah.
He got them to the Super Bowl, then Jim Kelly lost it. I think it was to Jeff Hostetler, who was also Bill Sims' backup that season.
Oh shit!
But Hostetler won the Super Bowl. Kelly lost it. Whatever. That's how it all went down, right? I thought he was going to be a really good coach. He was a good offensive coordinator in Indy, but I think Frank Reich is one of those guys who he's a great coordinator, should never be allowed to head coach. We got a comment in the chat. I'm going to interrupt this because I got to toss this out here. Mr. Gary Zam, what is up, buddy? The reason that we're here on this stream tonight is because of Gary. Just throwing that out there. He introduced us. So, Gary, thank you for putting us here.
Man, Gary.
Yes, and Gary, you did used to be a part of those late night conversations on the old Zoom. Tip saying, I'm 35, you can't fool me. Tip, I wish I was 35, homie. That would be real nice. So yeah, now let's get back to this Carolina conversation, because I think Frank Reich shouldn't ever be a head coach of an NFL team ever again. He didn't even get a full season in Carolina before they yanked him, which is fair because he was very, very bad. David Tepper is also a very, very bad owner. Is there any hope? I mean, is this a real, like, almost like Dan Snyder or like the Clippers in the NBA before Steve Ballmer bought him type deal?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully without the racism, but
hopefully.
Could be, but yeah, it could be. I mean, honestly, like, Tepper is a nightmare, dude. It's kind of a problem at this point because, like, it seems his mindset is just like, okay, let's push the chips into the middle of the table, let's go for it, and then he'll like give whatever iteration of his new plan is like 2.5 years, gets frustrated, tears it up, and is just like, no. We'll just, he has more of a concept of a plan rather than an actual plan. I think that's really more of his issue. And as long as he's in charge, it's going to be a little bit challenging. But at the same time, like, you brought in a guy in Dave Canales who knows what he's doing. He can run an offense pretty well. Like, I'm not ready to hit like panic button on their long-term future as of right now, but for right now and like fantasy purposes and like maybe the rest of this season, I'm a little bit like it's going to be kind of a dude. And I think it also kind of ties into like the point we were teasing earlier, the running back rotation between like Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders, both doing nothing behind that expensive but terrible offensive line, renders the entire offense useless. Like, that's my biggest concern because, like, we were talking about, I don't remember the, person's name that we were answering the question for, but like I saw their, on their team, they had Jonathan Brooks. And I was thinking about how many redraft teams I took Jonathan Brooks. Like, he slipped and I was like, oh, I'll stash him in my IR spot. He'll come back later. It'll be great. And then we see
the ineptitude of this. So just for anybody who's listening to the audio version, watching right now, when we're talking about the ineptitude of the Carolina backfield on Sunday, Chuba Hubbard, 6 carries for 14 yards. But Miles Sanders was there too. He had 5 carries for 22 yards. They combined for less than 5 fantasy points in that backfield on a team that should be doing, and something to your point that we kind of prognosticated they were going to be doing, and why we were buying in on Jonathan Brooks early on, was running the ball down people's throats, because that's what they can do with Bryce Young at quarterback. That's what bad teams do. They run the ball. You've got a good line. You've got capable running backs. You've got a quarterback who's learning, and suspect wide receivers. You run the ball. It's clock control. Yeah. You can keep the score down. You can keep things to field goals. Your defense is decent.
And
that's what you do.
in Tampa last year, they ran the piss out of the ball with Rachaad White. And for those who may
Right.
not remember, that's where Dave Canales came from. He was the offensive
Right.
coordinator of the Buccaneers. We had a pretty decent framework for what to expect from this, obviously, with, lesser talent, albeit,
Right.
there's no Chris Godwin or Mike Evans on this team, but, still, schematically, similar kind of tendencies and so forth. And it's not to say that we can't see it eventually, but just your debut performance can't be that bad. Like, that's the biggest, like, this entire team is 0. And I just want to apologize for anybody who, took Jonathan Brooks, took Deontay Johnson at the, like, it wasn't expensive.
I did it.
But it was still like a mid-round pick. You could have gone somewhere else. And
You could have.
for you because I am you, and we're dealing with this together.
Right. I mean, and look, the thing about this game and about this sport that we talk about, whether it's fantasy football or it's NFL, there are a lot of things that we don't know at the end of the day when we're trying to figure these things out, because the only people who know them are the player and the coach. That's it. We don't know exactly how this is all going to go. We didn't know that Carolina was going to suck this bad because Dave Canales led us to believe, after what he did with Baker Mayfield last season in Tampa Bay, this guy could turn Bryce Young around. And yes, it's only week 1, but when homeboy goes 13 of 30 for 161 and 2 interceptions, like,
when you're that bad
against, and it's not like they were playing like the Detroit Lions, who have a defense that makes me downgrade fantasy players in my rankings. They were playing the New Orleans Saints, a team that I have battered and beaten down the entirety of the offseason because they're just not that good of a team. Derek Carr is an all right quarterback. He's a QB2.
Old.
Their defense is old. And they lost Marshawn Lattimore on Sunday. He's out for 3 to 6 weeks. So their old defense got even less capable, because as old as Marshawn Lattimore is, he's still a really good cover corner. That might not be as quick as he used to be, but he can still get it done.
Oh, sure.
Bryce Young couldn't manage more than 13 completions on 30 attempts against that New Orleans defense. The way that Carolina got blown out by New Orleans tells me this. This is a team that might not win a game this year. We're talking like Hugh Jackson Browns historically bad.
And that's why, like, to bring up the homeboy Jamie's comment that we got, chilling there, let's not overreact on Deontay. He'll get his targets eventually. Like,
he will.
Yes, but what we're kind of talking about is that, like, even when he does, how much do they matter? How far are these targets going to travel? Like, not just in terms of intended air yards, I'm not talking just that, but I mean, like, once he gets the ball, how far is he going to go with it type thing? You know what I mean? Like, what sort of yak opportunities are we even talking about? Like, these targets are not going to turn into more than, say, what we got from Pop Douglas at the end, at
Sure.
portions of last season with the Patriots. Like, that's the level of production that we're talking about on that target share. And like, that's what's frustrating. Like, I hate that he's there now, because I'm a Steelers fan. I watched him have to, just see natural talent value to the fact that Matt Canada was calling the plays. But like, the fact that this is functionally worse, that's the problem. Like, that's, the whole offense might be a 0. If you took a Carolina Panther, you wasted a pick probably. It's not definitive yet, but I would bet on it being useless.
Yeah, it is useless. And like, I was in the same camp of like, is Jamie here? Deontay's going to see volume. He is going to see volume. He's probably going to see 120 targets this year. Here's the problem. How many of those are catchable targets?
Also that.
70, 80, maybe 90. Like, dude, Bryce Young is not an accurate quarterback. And that's where you get into, okay, I'm going to make a weird comparison that maybe a lot of people watching this show won't understand. But if you don't know the name or you don't understand the relevance of it, go look him up on YouTube. There are tons of highlights. Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie he's a short white dude. He was quick. He could move around in the pocket, and he had a really, really great arm. Very successful at Boston College.
Flutie was that boy.
He was that boy. One of the craziest finishes you'll ever see to a college football game. Ever. You'll have to look it up on YouTube. Just look up Doug Flutie, Boston College. But here's the thing, is that Bryce Young is essentially Doug Flutie. And what was Doug Flutie's career? Doug Flutie was a gimmick player. He wasn't a starting quarterback except for maybe 2 seasons. In those 2 seasons, he was good until defenses figured out his gimmick, which was that he was smaller than everyone else on the field, so he could move around easier. He could slip through and find open lanes to make throws. Doug Flutie, same size as Bryce Young, could not throw out of the pocket. Offensive linemen and defensive linemen were simply too big for him to see the field. I've got 3 inches height-wise on Bryce Young. I played a season of flag football. I played quarterback 1 game, and I will tell you, I didn't have guys that much taller than me playing offensive line in front of me, and I had a hard time seeing the field. Yeah, and I know it's flag football. I am not an NFL quarterback. I'm just saying in a comparable experience.
Still,
how does Bryce Young? That's what I don't. It was difficult for me at 5'11" to see the field behind a bunch of 6-foot guys who were barely an inch taller than me, standing up to block a bunch of guys who were about the same size.
Imagine how, the real thing's probably infinitely more, that's why I always hate it when that shit trends on social media sometimes, where it's like, you could either have $1 million or $10 million if you can gain 10 rushing yards in an NFL game or something. It's like shit. I'm like, take the million, stop. You can't do any of these things. All of these hypothetical things, you can't do those things. That had nothing to do with any of this. I apologize, audience, but still, it made me think of that, and I hate it when that happens. But anyway.
So I just want to... Nate was on a team of Smurfs for Robbie here in the chat for all you audio version listeners. And then he follows it up with Nate had lawn gnomes for blockers. Robbie, I was playing in a rec league flag football team. We were so wildly unserious. I can't believe we even fielded a team most weeks. I broke my nose in our first practice.
Good God. Right. Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. That's what you're getting. But seriously, that's what you're getting, an undersized quarterback who can't see the field in Bryce Young. I couldn't understand why teams wanted him so high in the draft. Again, college, completely different game than the NFL. Because Terrell Pryor was a great college quarterback at Ohio State. I think. What did he do? What did he do in the NFL?
Was an awesome receiver for 1 season.
That's what he was.
But the thing, Bryce Young can work.
Sure.
If you have the offensive line to be able to protect him long enough so that way he can run those kind of boot patterns, out the same way that Russell Wilson did when he was younger. That's how you make it work. But it's all predicated on giving him the time to be able to do that thing. And if he can't do that thing, he's going to get pummeled like he does. And that's, the line has to be fixed. And they spent so much money on nothing. It's
you know what? This is just kind of you know what they need to do in Carolina if they're going to keep Bryce Young? Run the air raid offense. Run Mike Leach's air raid offense. Because think about it. You put him in shotgun on every single play.
It's always shoddy, dude.
You're giving him an extra half a second to 1 second after the snap to see the field before he gets collapsed on. And you can let him be a little bit more mobile. You can let him slip into gaps, get in front of the defensive line, and make a throw.
Plus, he can throw some bombs. I think it'd be fun.
He can throw bombs. He just can't do it in the pocket. That's what I'm saying. Bryce Young can never be a prototypical pocket NFL quarterback. And I feel like Carolina we're going to go into season 2 here where they're trying to turn him into a pocket passer. And he simply doesn't have the size or the ability to do that. He can do other things, but you're going to have to get slightly gimmicky to make Bryce Young be a relevant NFL quarterback.
It's possible. It's possible.
Think Tim Tebow. This comment from Brad here. Problem for Carolina was they gave up a TD, then Bryce threw a horrible pick, then New Orleans scores again, then 3 and out, then New Orleans scores again. It was 17-0 so damn early they couldn't run the ball.
I get that.
Yeah. Well, when you're making turnovers.
But still. I don't know.
Apparently, Jamie's getting restless here, Herms. He wants us to stop talking about Lil Young. He wants to know what we think about Nico versus Jalen Johnson this week. I'm getting to a point with these receivers in Houston and this offense in Houston. I kind of don't care who they're playing. They're turning into those offenses where they're just going to be good every week.
Shout out Bobby Slowick, man. Dude,
yep,
like whenever he becomes a
head
coach someday, like,
oh yeah, no,
yeah, dude,
out here like doing his thing. He's awesome too. But like Slowick and his design of this offense is just, it's great. And it also tying it to fantasy, just real quick to throw this out there. If you have Dalton Schultz, stop doing it because it's pointless.
He's
but anyway,
not,
yeah, because like
sadly,
Stephon Diggs, he's going to be a thing. Tank Dell, he's going to be a thing.
Diggs is going to be a thing-ish.
And we already, but that's the impressive part, though, is like the fact that we were arguing about these dudes for the entire summer. And by we, I mean everybody. Because that was the thing to do. But like, I think week one just showed us, it's like, oh, okay, it's all of them. You know, like you were saying. But I just think we overthought it perhaps a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And I worry that I was not bold enough in draft seasons because I don't really have a lot of exposure to this offense, and I'm really regretting it now.
Dude, the amount of Tank Dell I have and have traded for this offseason is disgusting. If Dynasty
stayed the course, man. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. Because I'm a big advocate of I like good front offices and I like good coaching staffs. Right? So when you get these people who they see their team, they want to do right by their team, and you can tell they're less concerned about the bottom line than they are winning. Now, Houston ownership is definitely not that, but everyone below Houston ownership wants to win above everything else. After the Deshaun Watson debacle and that whole mess, I feel like there are a lot of people that want to clear the air and clean the name of the Houston Texans. I know I'm not using the right terminology here, but here,
clear the air, something along those lines. This is a team that I think can just win. DeMeco Ryans comes from a winning culture in San Francisco. He comes from the Shanahan coaching tree. What does that coaching tree do? Sean McVay wins. Kyle Shanahan wins. Mike McDaniel wins. What are these guys? When he was playing for the Texans, like those teams were pretty good. Like he was one of the people that helped establish that winning culture in the first place. You know, like,
exactly.
Albeit in a very different capacity, but like it speaks to his acumen for sure. Like but I don't know. There's a whole lot we could launch into with that. But
sure.
Like, I want to at least answer Jamie's question. Jalen Johnson is pretty awesome, dude. Like it's going to be fun to watch. It doesn't scare me in terms of starting Nico because I think, you know, like we were talking about, that offense is just good anyway. What I will say though, dude, one of the things that I guess maybe boldly ranked in my pre-draft rankings for defenses was like, I think I had the Bears like 7. You know, I don't know where they were, you know, going in like ECR and all that stuff, but like besides that point, they really built up that secondary super well with those. Like they hit on so many like mid-round draft picks, and like Kyler Gordon's pretty awesome, and like but then going out and getting guys like Montez Sweat and building it up. Like point being, the Bears defense might be like a year or 2, maybe 3 away from like being one of those defenses that like gets a nickname or something. You know, like
they might be.
They're good. They're sneaky good, dude.
So for fantasy purposes, the only category the Bears defense wasn't in the, depending on how you want to look at it, we'll say the top 10 of fantasy points allowed on the good side of it, if you're playing, if you have their defense in fantasy, was tight end. Otherwise, they didn't let shit get by them on Sunday, which they had. That's the only way they could have won that game.
And you could say like, oh, it's the Titans, whatever, but like they were good last year too. They were
watch,
really
watch,
good.
Watch this Titans offense go and ball out the rest of the season. We've all slept on them. I mean, it's not really going to happen, but we got a question, more or less, in the chat. Skills all day. Start Richardson or Daniels. Trade Myers for Pollard. I have running backs: Hall, Zamir White, Mason, Bigsby, Brown, and Corum. Wide receivers are Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley. I'm assuming Jameson Williams. Tight ends are McBride and Bowards. Yeah, I wouldn't trade Pollard yet.
Wait, trade Myers for Pollard. Yeah, do that.
Yeah? All right.
It's if he's getting Tony Pollard, then yeah, do it. That's how I read that.
Oh, yeah, no, I read it wrong. Okay, yes, trade Myers for Pollard. Yes, do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, so now we've got an answer here. Start Richardson or Daniels?
Sure. They're the same to me. I feel like it's a terrible answer. I apologize, but they're both going to run so much, dude. Like
I'm leaning Daniels this week. I believe, let me double check this here real quick. Sorry, it's taking me so long to pull up my rankings, sir.
Yeah. I literally have them like back to back. So
I do too. So I've got Jaden Daniels against the Giants at 6, Kyler Murray against the Rams at 7, and Richardson against Green Bay at 8. So I would go, based on my rankings, I would go Daniels, but I mean, really honestly, it's a push in betting terms here. Speaking of betting terms, Poker Guts wants to know, do you guys have Bucks +7 this week? Against Detroit, oof. Do you think they can cover +7?
I don't know a lot about betting stuff, man. I'm not the person to ask.
Okay, so we're looking at we're gonna have a fun lesson here.
All right. Cool.
All right. Okay. So here's how the odds work here. So if the Bucks are at +7, that means that their opponent, who this week happens to be Detroit, is favored by a touchdown. So if you bet on the Bucks to cover that +7, they either have to win or lose by less than 7 points. So if you bet the Bucks +7, you're just saying like they might lose, but it's going to be by less than 7 points. So would you pick the Bucks
betting
to
on
cover
it being super
+7?
close, or like you're betting on some sort of blowout is basically the
you're betting on the Bucks to lose by less than 7 if you take that. If you take Detroit at -7, Detroit has to win by more than a touchdown. So are you taking the Bucks? Would you take the Bucks at +7?
Nah, dude. I think I would bet on Detroit winning by more than 7. I have a very uneducated opinion on this betting stuff, but I'm just from a football standpoint, I would bet on the Lions over that.
So we've got Brad said he'd take the Bucks at +7. Robbie, who Poker Guts, I'm going to tell you right now, Robbie's a betting fiend. Not that we're not.
Well, no
not
way.
That I'm not. But Robbie's on it. Robbie is on it.
Robbie knows.
Well, you can't legally bet in the DMV, really. But yeah, he says they don't cover. Here's where I'm at. I think they cover. Sorry, Robbie, but I think they cover. Tampa Bay, this is a really good team. And yes, Detroit's really good, and Detroit has a really good defense. And I've downgraded some of their players in my rankings because of the defense. I downgraded Baker Mayfield all the way to quarterback 12 this week. I probably would have had him QB 10 or higher otherwise. But that said, I think this is. I think Detroit wins this game by 3 points.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll take the Bucks +7.
I got you. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting you. I just completely spaced out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The thing I would say though, from just a football standpoint, that I think may be relevant for the betting information as well, perhaps. I think Antoine Winfield is supposed to miss time
And like that's a pretty substantial loss in that secondary. And especially for like Ben Johnson, led
Mhm.
and called, passing offense. I just have a feeling Detroit's really going to be able to take advantage of that, especially with like the ascent. Do what Jameson Williams ascended to in the offense like last week was very surprising, but also just so cool to see and just kind of flashed. It's like, oh, that's why they took him with the 12th pick of that draft. Okay, all right, cool. That's really my biggest concern about it being close is because that big of a key member of your secondary not being there, like against one arguably the league's best play caller.
Sure.
It's tough, bro.
So Poker Guts counterpoint to your point here. Bucksy's a high pick on a good safety in Tyke Smith. And he makes a point that he was great in camp and preseason.
I'll look it up. Yeah, that cool.
Yeah. Poker Guts, here's the one thing I will say. You're still looking at a rookie who is getting introduced to NFL action. As good as they were in college, there are very few guys that can step out of the gate and be really good at the NFL level.
Oh, he went to Georgia. Okay.
Right.
Oh, I think
so you're talking about a more NFL.
Okay.
I talked about a lot of Tyke Smith in the offseason. We were doing pre-draft stuff. So yes, but still, you're still talking about a younger guy with less experience than Myfielkd. So, I mean, you're allowed to be concerned by that. Really quick here, we've got Sith Lord asking Marvin Harrison Jr. for Debo. I'm not that worried about. I would stay the course as well, man.
And I love Debo. I am really buying into Debo. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as long as CMC's out, this offense runs through Debo Samuel. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is the upside, bro.
Yep.
With it.
Oh, dude. Massive upside. Massive upside. All right. Jamie has a question in the chat here. He wants to know, are you considering taking the under on rookie wide receiver Coleman for his second game on a short week? 43.5 yards and 3.5 receptions. Ramsey in that secondary is scary. This week I would take the under on Coleman. Props. It's kind of a gut feeling. I feel like Kincaid's going to get a little bit more involved in the offense. He really wasn't super involved last week. Khalil Shakir has shown that he's capable of being a one-season wide receiver one in this offense, maybe, at least for maybe the first few weeks. But I wouldn't take the over on that. We got a disagreement in the chat here, and I'm fine with it. Poker Guts. He said he would take the over on the Coleman yards. I have a hard time with the Buffalo offense right now. That's all. The passing game is a mystery. And I feel like No, go ahead.
The only thing they maybe have going for them in this situation is that it's Thursday night YOLO ball. Like that's kind of, like that's a fun little boon, but then also like I wonder how much of a competitive game it's going to be because Raheem Mostert's already out. Achane may not suit up at all either. So like, that's kind of a lot of the Dolphins offense. Not to besmirch the names of Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jalen Wright. They'll probably be very, very good, but maybe not, the top, flight version of the offense. But like,
sure.
The Bills might destroy this also, which is like kind of the ultimate counterpoint. Like, I don't know. To your point, like they didn't get Dalton Kincaid involved. It was a little bit weird. Now you're in prime time. You get a chance to like go out there and really show the world like what was supposed to kind of, that would be my argument for it. But with a guy like Coleman and the fact that they still have to integrate Kincaid, like I would probably go the unders on that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we agree. I love it. Eternal.
I took a really long road to get there. Damn.
You did.
Sure, my bad, dude. I don't know.
It's okay. I'm used to it, and our viewers will get used to it. Here's the thing, guys. If you're watching us for the first time, if you're listening to either of us for the first time, sometimes we have these long analytic roads to where we're getting. But if you listen to us, you're going to learn something. And it's not tuning our own horns.
I have friends who are English professors, and they say, "Sir, it's brilliant. You just weave subjects together." And
fun story. One of my best friends from high school is a biochemical engineer. He was the bass player in my high school punk band, and we were really close. The guitar player in our high school punk band, who was also one of my best friends, is a professor at the Colorado School of Mines, which is one of the best engineering schools in the country, and he teaches a bunch of like high-level engineering classes.
Dude.
So I grew up listening to really brainiac people talk long-winded, so just get used to it, guys. Not that we're brainiacs, we're just long-winded. That's all I'm really saying.
Ooh, I got an immediate one for this, and I will read it
Go
aloud
for it.
because I am passionate and I'm here for it.
Do
Week
it.
1 J.K. Dobbins' performance was absolutely awesome, but
Yep.
you are wondering what our thoughts are on still sashing Kamani Vidal, and to that I say I want to give flowers to J.K. Dobbins because he absolutely deserves this. He had almost a 60% snap share and then also ran a 57.1 route participation rate out of the backfield. Very surprising. Didn't really see that happening because he's already had that multi-ligament tear, then the Achilles, this whole thing. Like, I didn't think it was going to happen for him. So the story was amazing, but
Yeah.
in some of those long touchdowns, like if your longer runs too, you know, he looked a little slow. I don't think there's a ton of juice left in there. Not to say that he can't be good and not to say that he can't still play and be fantasy relevant, but I think the fact that the juice is not all there means the window is still open for Kamani Vidal. I'm not dropping him yet.
Yeah. No. Well, you know how I feel about Kamani Vidal.
He's awesome.
I fell in love with the dude in Miami, and in Mobile. It was a combination of his work ethic and just his thigh size. Because come on, guys, you can't go wrong with that.
And he was really nice to our friend John. You know,
he was so nice to John. And here's the thing: J.K. Dobbins can't stay healthy. I love it when he is healthy. He's a phenomenal running back, and from all accounts and purposes and everything we've heard, he's a phenomenal human being. But when you start to have these kinds of knee injuries that he's had, the ACL tears, and then you get the Achilles, those have long-term effects on your body, and you start to operate differently. I tore my rotator cuff when I was 16 years old. My right arm motion is completely different now than it was before that. And it's very simply a product of the injury. Your muscle movement is different. Your ligament movement is different. Some of these injuries affect your body more than they affect others. He's had a lot of lower body injuries, and I worry about his long-term viability because of the way he moves.
And I think we could see that. Like, and that's
we can
see
scary. So a long way around here, Eternal 305. But what I'm saying is keep stashing Kamani Vidal because what J.K. Dobbins is doing right now is amazing. And Herms thinks I'm crazy, but because they're up against Carolina this week, I have J.K. Dobbins as my week 2 running back 4. We can argue about this all day. I don't care. It's a little bit crazy, but I it's a gut feeling here. But that aside, stash Kamani Vidal. I want to throw some stuff out here. Poker Guts is tossing in the chat because this is high level and I love it. And Poker Guts, hit me up on Twitter at Nate Paulvote. Shoot me a DM. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this stuff here. He's saying in Miami, the home field advantage as far as bettors are concerned and as far as Vegas is concerned is based on opponents getting no shade. So the night game doesn't factor that advantage in when they're looking at the spreads on bets. Pretty cool thing to learn. Gary saying the smirch is a total Herms word. Love it. It's true. Who was the first one? Don't besmirch Rojo.
Do not besmirch the good name.
It got less good, but
There's one rule. Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right.
You can do it now, but not at the time.
All right. We've got FBU in the chat saying, should I trade Baker Mayfield for Aaron Rodgers? I have Evans and Garrett Wilson. Which double stack is better? Mayfield and Evans is the better stack.
Yeah. Just you have it right already. You're good.
Keep it. Yep, you're good. Jamie saying Ramsey only allows 3.3 receptions per game, so facing a rookie at a 3.5 line makes sense. Yeah, I love it. Poker Gut saying don't dump Baker. MVP season incoming.
Yes.
Look at you, man. I love you.
Let's go.
Yes, this is beautiful. Josh Loyola wanting to know Tank Dell or Malik Neighbors in a flex. This is very simple. It is Tank Dell. Because Daniel Jones is his
I have it
quarterback.
ranked that way, yeah.
That's how I have it ranked. I have Dell way ahead of Neighbors. Jamie Parag saying, I love Vidal, and you should. Vidalia onions also. If you've never heard of them, go find them in your store. They're delicious.
I have neighbors and Dell literally back to back. That's wild. Okay.
All right. FBU saying Malik. I'm assuming you're referring to Malik Willis. Are you trying to get us to talk about Malik Willis? We can do that real quick.
Perhaps neighbors.
He's not fantasy relevant. Malik Willis is not fantasy relevant. Malik Neighbors is slightly fantasy relevant, but he plays for the Giants, which are barely an NFL team. Their uniforms made them look like the Montreal Canadiens last week.
Of the Maliks, I prefer Neighbors, and that is my stance, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Pokerget says Cohen can play calling for Bucks as elite in week 1. I would have to agree, man. That Bucks team looked really freaking good. Eternal saying, thanks, guys. I'll subscribe. We appreciate it, man. It makes it so much easier for us to keep being here at 1:05 a.m. Eastern. It is 11:05 Mountain Standard Time, 10:05 on the Pacific Coast. And Risen, who is, I'm assuming with that Giants, that Niners logo. Giants are the baseball team in San Francisco. With that Niners logo, you're probably Pacific time. You're a little earlier than us, but he wants to know who you're starting week 2, Brian Robinson Jr. or Rachaad White.
I have them close, but for now, Rachaad White. I mean, like, Brian Robinson definitely established a slightly bigger role for himself than I thought he would. But, Rachaad White, for the most part, played the majority of the important snaps in that game. And before people yell at me and say, well, Bucky Irving, blah, 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 like, I'm here for it, like low-key, maybe long-term. But that was also a massive garbage time game against the league's worst defense. So, like, I'm always a man when it comes to the running back, especially. I just bet on the volume, and I just think Rachaad White's going to touch the ball more. So,
well, look, at a certain point, we have to say this to the masses. We live in a world where in the NFL, there are 2 running back systems in almost every team. Very rarely you're going to find a bell cow anymore. Rachaad White can eat, and so can Bucky Irving. I have Rachaad White at running back 20 this week. I have Brian Robinson at running back 23. What concerns me about Rachaad White, he's actually on my do not start because he's in the top 40 of Fantasy Pros, the Flex ECR rankings. Not because I ranked him there. It has nothing to do. I don't think you did either. They're playing Detroit. And he's kind of a trap this week, but still RB20 is not bad. I'll take it. Mikolajek Konopka, I hope I said that right. Should I trade Adams for Olave? Absolutely not. Devontae Adams for Chris Olave? In what world would you make that trade?
No, I mean, I wouldn't do it. I just think it's like, it's weirdly closer than like I thought it would be. Like when I first read it, I was like, oh, this is obvious. But then I'm like, damn, still Adams. Like, don't take
Definitely
me
Adams.
Being weird about it, like as any sort of indictment. But it's close.
Dude, I'm
It's
just
weirdly...
not.
Brock Bowers, 8 targets. Dominating that shit, getting fed like TJ Hawkins. Like I think he's just immediately the dude. That's where like the dip can happen for Adams.
Where do you have Bowers this week?
I have my rankings pulled up here. I think it's not like it's high. I put him 8. I'm warming up to it. Like it's, we'll see.
I've got him at 12. I don't know. I'm trying to really.
You want to see it again? I get it.
I'm trying to warm up to it. I'm trying to. All right. Eternal 305 in the chat. Picked up Vidal and dropped Eckler. Jordan Mason also sitting there in free agency. What are your thoughts on Jordan Mason over the next month, considering that he probably has only 1 start remaining? Okay, so first thing I'm going to say, he probably has more than 1 start remaining. And with what he has done, and given the system that he works within, the Shanahan system, Jordan Mason has plenty of viability moving forward. Go get him on free agency. Even when CMC comes back, he's still going to have relevancy.
Let's also say, for all intents and purposes, you are only getting that one more game. Is the one game contribution that you have remaining with Jordan Mason going to win you a week? Quite possibly. Is the best week we're going to see out of Eckler going to win you your week? Probably not.
Not even
close.
Yeah.
You have to win every week to do the thing. That's how you get to the championship. So like I look at it probably like annoyingly simplistically when it comes to stuff like this, but like if he starts and he's this guy for San Francisco in that offense, like you take that. And when it's over, you dump it, you figure out the next guy that's going to do that for you, and the next guy, and the next guy, and you just churn. You figure it out. It's too good of an opportunity to pass up.
Jordan Mason against the New York Jets defense, which we know that this is a good defense.
They were disappointing, but they were talented. Yeah,
they're talented. They on 28 carries, Jordan Mason netted 147 yards, 5.25 yards per carry, and a touchdown against a really good defense. Here's what he has coming up: Minnesota, Los Angeles Rams, New England Patriots, Arizona Cardinals. New England's a tough matchup. Minnesota, Rams, those aren't particularly difficult for a running back. From a fantasy perspective, we want CMC back now, right?
Of course.
Very badly.
Yeah.
But from an NFL perspective, if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're John Lynch, you see what Jordan Mason did in week 1 against a good Jets defense. He made them look like a not great Jets defense. I'm not in any rush to bring CMC back.
You're trying to play in February,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to, if I'm Shanahan and I'm Lynch, I'd probably just put him on the IIR, let him sit for 4 weeks, let him rehab that shit. You've got Jordan Mason. Dude put up 150 yards in his first start in the NFL.
And even if not IR, maybe only
just
one more game, but maybe 2 or 3. There's still a very real world in which he's just going to sit out for a little while because it's
or like he's on a snap count where it's like, we're gonna play him just to keep him fresh, but like 30 snaps.
Exactly. It's not unprecedented. They've done that with McCaffrey before.
Yeah.
Albeit I think it was, shortly after he got, traded there. It was a slightly different circumstance, but either way, they've been methodical on short notice before with stuff like this. Like, the value's there for sure.
Yep. Question in the chat as it moves. FB wants to know who to start in my flex 12-team standard scoring, Zeke or Neighbors.
Oh, jeez.
I'm probably going to go
my rankings.
I'm probably going to go. I'm going to have to say Zeke here.
Who's the other one?
Flex.
Zeke and
Neighbors.
Zeke and Neighbors. I have them very close together in their respective positions.
I'm going to say Zeke. I'm going to say Zeke.
I'll go with Zeke. Yeah, Rico Dowdle didn't turn out to really be much of a factor.
And was Dalvin Cook even there?
I honestly don't remember. But yeah,
who knows?
Zeke's gonna. It's weird, but Zeke's gonna be a thing. Okay, we just accept it now.
It's fine. I feel like Zeke is gonna be like discount Emmitt Smith at the end of his career, where you're like, this dude floated around, played for the Cowboys forever, took a little detour. That he's gonna go to the Cardinals for 4 seasons, and then he's gonna win Dancing with the Stars. I'm like, Zeke.
Oh, certainly. No, it's fun to see. It kind of reminds me of Now, granted, I don't think it's going to be this good, but like the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara year, where like Ingram had been good for a long time, but like,
Yeah.
you know, nothing crazy. But then all of a sudden, not that year, the Ravens year. That's the first. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, just like that one off at the end of their career. Like, sure, why not? You know, just that. I think that might be this year for Zeke, where it's like I don't know why it happened either, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
no, and I'm
it
all
might
for
just
those
be
years,
that.
man. It makes for fun.
Might just be
Eternal
that.
305 has one more question. Ask as many as you want. Throw them out there. Is Sam Darnold still a joke? No. No, he is not.
Sam Darnold. Man. We don't know. Like,
I don't know how many times I have to look. His first 4 games in Carolina, when he had good players in a functioning offensive line, he was the overall QB5 through 4 games.
They were good.
Look what he had. Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Those are better weapons than he had when he was in Carolina, outside of CMC.
Ty Chandler was pretty good. You know, that's all. You know,
shout out.
I think he's one of those dudes.
Yeah, he's fine.
I think he might. You know, he shouldn't be in anyone's lineup right now, but I think he should be on your bench. I really think he should be get him on your bench. Pick him up. Like if he's out there, like put him on your bench, dude. I got good feelings about that. He worked in. Now, granted, I mean they were destroying the Giants, so some of that could just be draining clock, whatever. But like, it's kind of what I was saying earlier about like Bucky Irving. It's like the game circumstance kind of makes it a little bit difficult to believe fully, but they also looked pretty good on their touches. So who knows?
Yeah,
but yeah. It was one game though. Like that's my thing. Like I know you liked Arnold, and like I want him to be. I want him to be good. Like I want this to work because it would just be cool. But I want to see. I want to see it for a couple more games before I'm like, okay, it wasn't just him. Wrecking the Giants, being the vastly superior team on paper.
So they've got San Francisco, Houston, and Green Bay, and then the Jets before the break. We're gonna know. We'll know before week 6.
That schedule, we'll know.
3 of those 4 defenses are elite, and one of them is really damn good. So we'll know. We'll know. All right, guys. I think we're going to roll out of here. We're in an hour and 15 minutes. We are approaching 1:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This has been a blast. We're going to try and, I don't know, this kind of late night thing's working out, right? I kind of like it. Yeah,
it's a fun format to play with.
It is, man. We're having fun, and thank you guys, everyone who is tuned in. I want to remind all the Twitter viewers, you can comment now. Drop in that chat. Ask us your questions. We have a show sheet every night, but your questions take precedence. If we don't cover everything we have on our list, we'd rather help you win. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tune in. DFS show on Friday, flagship tomorrow night. We have got the mailbag show Friday evening. Come find us on Reddit Sunday morning. That was batshit crazy. 600 start-sit questions in 90 minutes. Let's get to 1,200 this week. Bring it. Let's go. Let us help you. I've got nothing else.
Yeah,
this has been a blast.
Cool.
Yeah.
100%. Can't wait to do this again.
I know, right?
Yeah,
what fun. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to make this easier for us to do even more often. We love you guys. If you have additional questions, please find us at optimusfantasy.com. Make sure to drop them in the chat here. That's fine. We can go back and answer them later. We would love to. We want to help you win. We'll see you next week.